Hello everyone! Welcome back to my review show. Happy third day of Hanukkah to my Jewish viewers. As always, I'm Alec Alger, the SideQuest Gamer. Now before we take a look at our next game, let's talk about puzzles. Now puzzles are the world's oldest form of gaming, debatably. And they, believe it or not, shaped our common way of thinking in the world today. I mean, basic arithmetic was a puzzle. The game chess was a puzzle. Even something horrible like war strategies were a never-ending puzzle of where and when the enemy is ambushing you and where they're based. And when to strike. And of course, when we think of puzzles today, we think of toys like the Rubik's Cube. Or, of course, the common jigsaw puzzle. DNA is a puzzle. Atomic structure is a puzzle. Everyone is a puzzle. Everything is a puzzle. But enough of my long-winded philosophy. Let's take a look at the best-selling puzzle video game of all time. And that would be Tetris. Not Candy Crush, not Bubble Witch Saga, it's Tetris.
Everyone loves Tetris, and not to spoil the rest of my review, but I really love Tetris. I mean, it's not a game where I have to buy all the versions to it to appreciate the whole series, but if you at least acquire one version of it, that's all you really needed for the full Tetris experience. I mean, it's not like Pokemon where you have to buy all the versions to it, like versions red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, crystal, emerald, sapphire, ruby, fire red, leaf green, and the list goes on. And that's just the main series. If I had to list all the spin-offs, we'd be here all night. So anyways, the story of the game is, oh wait, who needs a story? The only story to tell is basically the copyright issues with the developers. But we'll get to that later. The game involves you getting the descending different shaped pieces in a horizontal row in order to make that row disappear, adding to your score. Get 10 rows to disappear, and you move on to the next level where the descending pieces go faster and faster. Eventually, the pieces will descend so fast that you barely fit any pieces into rows and it all stacks up and then game over. So there is no beating the game, but it's so addicting just to see how much further you can go. One thing I have to say about Tetris is that the gameplay is perfect. You can't even choose the difficulty you start out with, and the music before the game starts, so that it gives you a sense of freedom. It may not seem like a big deal to most, but dying doesn't make you feel like you're starting all over, even if your score is at 0. Like I just said, you can choose among one of 3 tracks to start out the game with, and all 3 tracks are very catchy. I like it much better than Dr. Mario's selection of music, and that has 5 tracks to select from, but that's just my opinion. It's all a matter of musical taste in the end. The graphics for the NES and Game Boy versions really haven't aged at all. I mean, sure, you know it's in 8 bits, but the block shapes and color selection is surprisingly nice to look at. And the colors and shapes don't really give the illusion of age at all. I mean, this could pass for a smartphone game, I'm happy to say. But before I rate this game, I would like to talk about the Tetris franchise overall. It was created by a Russian video game developer by the name of Alexei Pajitnov. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but due to poor international copyright tracking, Pajitnov nearly lost custody of Tetris, and plus the Soviet Union technically owned Tetris. It wasn't until the 90s where Pajitnov moved to the US and was able to regain his Tetris franchise and allow Nintendo to use it continuously. But back in the 1980s where Tetris was catching on, Nintendo won the rights to it after a lengthy battle with Atari and other companies that made ports of Tetris. In all the Nintendo Tetris games, Pajitnov is always credited as the creator of Tetris, and I guess that's all it really needs. And maybe that's why Pajitnov, when he moved to the US, he continued to allow Nintendo to make Tetris video games. Although, Nintendo and Pajitnov continue to battle with who actually owns Tetris, which led to the Tetris DS selling very few copies despite that version being universally acclaimed as the best version of Tetris ever made. I have no idea how much further it went, but all I know is that Tetris 3D for the 3DS was one of the handheld's first games, so I guess Nintendo still is allowed to make Tetris games. So overall, Whether you're playing Tetris on a Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo DS, or whatever, you're still getting the grade A experience, and I would honestly give this game a 97 out of 100. Which version is better? It's all a matter of taste, but I kind of like the NES version a little more for its appealing color palette, but hey, get it for download on both the Wii U and 3DS. You won't regret your $4 or $5 American dollar purchase. I really recommend Tetris DX of all those three since it saves your highest score, unlike the other two, but it doesn't have that soundtrack Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy like the other two had, which is too bad because I always play that song when I'm playing Tetris. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 4. Goodbye, everybody, and remember to stay awesome.